Hey, everybody. In today's episode, it's myself, Benjamin B., and a lovely lady, Ramsey. Ramsey comes on the show today to discuss, of course, sobriety. She's coming up on 3 years on March 25th, and it's rather remarkable. She did come through Rock Recovery Center. She's very open about having a little slip up after she graduated from our program, but she had the tools necessary to get back on track. She does talk about eating disorder and how that played a role in her life growing up. She did grow up in Miami and the party scene there, and how she developed a lot of her party skills living in Miami. But ultimately the growth that she has been able to have over 3 years of being sober and now helping other women and working in the treatment field. She's an absolutely remarkable young lady and super excited to have her on the show. I know you're going to love it. Enjoy the show. Here we are, Real Recovery Talk. I am your host, Tom Conrad. In today's episode, we've got Benjamin B.
What's happening, everyone?
And we have a lovely lady, Ramsey. Hello, Ramsey.
Hi, everyone.
First things first, thank you for tuning in on the podcast app, whichever one that you choose to use, and thank you for watching on YouTube. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you could always reach us, info@realrecoverytalk.com. Again, that's info@realrecoverytalk.com. And ultimately, we want to help you turn your mess into your message, right, peeps?
That's right, sir. What do you think, Ramsey?
I love that.
Are you nervous?
Absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely.
Do me a little favor. You gotta either bring the mic closer to you, like just kind of, there you go. Yeah, there. Nice.
If you bring it close enough, it feels like your eyes just go right over it and you don't even know.
Yeah. This is extremely close.
So, what's up, Ben?
Chilling like a villain.
Yeah?
I'm in a peaceful, good mood today.
Okay.
I don't know. Something just feels good. You have those days where you're just like, you know what? Everything's all right, bro.
Every day is like that for me.
Yeah, that's true. But then why are you so grumpy all the time?
Every day is like that for me, too.
Grumpy disposition.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've always been searching for a word for that, and you just gave it to me.
Yeah.
I have a grumpy disposition.
You know, I went to a sunrise meeting one time with a bunch of old timers. Well, there was only 4. And I was like, this is going to be kind of awkward for me. But there was one thing that one guy said that really stuck with me, just kind of on the basis that you said. And he said, you know, happiness ebbs and flows, right? To be happy all the time is completely unrealistic. But one thing that sobriety has brought me is a state of contentment and a state of peace of mind. And that really stuck with me because that is what I have now, right? And some days I feel happy. Some days I feel sad. But at the end of the day, one thing that I do have all the time now is that state of peace and that state of contentment. And that was something that I never had before when I was out there and when I was sick. And that's what I really love. Yeah.
Look at that. I mean, for you being nervous, I wouldn't know. Yeah, that was great.
I think she says she's nervous, but she's really not.
No,
I don't know.
This is right in your wheelhouse.
That just popped into my brain.
Yeah. So, how old are you?
I'm 29.
And you got sober or clean, sober, whatever you say?
I spent my 26th birthday in detox.
Okay.
And then I had a little slip up. So math is weird. I don't know. Officially, maybe we're like 27, 28, 29. So I guess around whatever. But this time when it stuck, 27.
Same age as us, right, Tom? I always change the age I got sober because I don't math well either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were 27.
You'll have 3 years in March. No, we were 26, Ben.
We were?
Yes.
Now you changed it again.
I never changed it. I've never changed it. Never once.
All right.
So you're coming up on 3 years in March.
Yeah.
March what?
March 25th.
March 25th. Put that in your memory bank, Ben.
That
Okay.
might be actually easy for me. Kai's birthday is March 31st, so.
Okay, cool. So how many times do you go to treatment?
Inpatient or outpatient?
Treatments that you would consider actual, treatment. Inpatient / outpatient. Quite a few?
Yeah, I would say maybe around 5.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you from?
Miami.
Really?
Mhm.
That's how you're so knowledgeable about Griselda Blanca.
Blanco.
Blanco?
Yeah,
Is it
You
an
speak
O?
Spanish, don't you?
a little bit.
Yeah.
I think you'd have to growing up in Miami.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I went to school. They try to. I mean, they do teach it to you in school. That never helped. I mean, you learn the basics like chair, apple, where's the bathroom, but I really started learning it a lot around the age of maybe like 22, 23 when I started working in the kitchens, bartending, things like that, because it was conversational Spanish. That's really when you start learning another language, when you actually practice it every day, when you're conversing with people who know the other language. And, when you have a bunch of, Cuban ladies yelling at you to, speed up on the line, when you're working in the kitchens, you really pick it up really quickly, out of panic. And then when I would be serving, or bartending, I would tell people, I'd be like, I only want you to speak to me in Spanish. That way I could pick it up. And it also helps a lot now, in what I do when people call in for help and they speak Spanish. I'm able to provide them that help as well, which is nice.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So just give us a little bit of your backstory. We're not going to talk a lot about, war stories and stuff like that, but you grow up in Miami, drugs, alcohol, party scene, I imagine. I grew up backwoods of Pennsylvania, so I hate Miami, just as a disclaimer.
Yeah.
I stay out of there at all costs. Ben was just there
Yeah.
a couple
Why?
weeks ago. He went to a
Funny
rave.
thing.
Funny.
Funny thing. Yes, that is accurate.
Yeah.
Gio. You work with
Yeah.
Gio.
Yes.
He went with Destiny and I down to see
Excision?
Excision.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you go to that?
No, but I'm familiar with Excision.
Yeah.
Yeah. He told me he was going.
Yeah. You should go with us next time.
I don't know, man. I kind of.
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong. I need a long break, like a 3-year hiatus from doing it again, probably.
Oh yeah.
But at some point,
I had my EDM years back when I was in like high school.
yeah.
Oh yeah. I think I'm EDM'd out.
Yeah. Well, I did the same thing, and this ties into the whole growing up in Miami thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because I grew up in this area, Palm Beach County, but high school, from the age of 15 to 20, I was in the Miami, Fort Lauderdale, the rave scene, did the first 8 ultra music festivals, Club Space. Oh, they closed for, what,
Mecca?
a half hour? Yeah, the Mansion, all that stuff. But the EDM scene would, especially because you were bartending,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, dude, it's easier to ask, is there any drugs you haven't done? Like if you were in that scene kind of thing.
I went to Tony's Lounge. Tony's Lounge, and we played, Merle Haggard and Waylon Jennings and old school country, sat there and just drank our sorrows away.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But back to you. Tell us about yourself. Growing up in Miami, party town, party city, cocaine everywhere, drugs, Ramsey's down there navigating all this. What's this like?
When I say I'm from Miami, sometimes people do get that confused. There was definitely a big party scene, but I grew up south from the city. I was in the suburbs, an area of, Palmetto Bay, Cutler Bay. So, it was very much, middle-class suburbs. I wasn't in the hectic city environment, kind of flashy, what you see, when people think of Miami, big high-rises, different things like that. But, we still had, the classic stealing your parents' booze, underage drinking. I would tell my parents I was, going to a movie, getting dropped off at the mall, getting picked up by somebody that could drive, and going off to some ranch party in the middle of nowhere, drinking cheap booze and passing out in the middle of a field somewhere, and then you get a little bit older, and I remember we would take public transport out to Miami Beach, chug Four Locos, and just get absolutely tossed out on Miami Beach. And that was really kind of like my first experience and exposure to that kind of party life out in the city. And then came Ultra Music Festival going into high school. And that was really my first time ever experiencing ecstasy. And that was not pure ecstasy, not not anything that kind of came out, I guess, a little bit later. I mean, that's when it was pressed with, meth, rat poison, whatever the heck else they probably could have, pressed it with. And, I remember I was rolling face when I still had braces. I remember being at, Ultra Music Festival, picking up like half empty water bottles off the floor because I was so dehydrated, just like trying to get like any kind of water in my system. And that was just the thing that we did, as kids, before we could even drive, just any kind of drugs that came our way, all kinds of music festivals. I mean, that was really big for kids in Miami, especially us from the suburbs, because that was like living. That was our first experience of like, this is, that exciting, lavish, kind of like celebrity lifestyle, and this was like our, really big, rebellious age. And that, that definitely, took a lot out of me for sure. But, I loved it because, I'm an alcoholic. And I was already, hardcore drinking. I mean, in 7th grade was really, I can remember the exact day that my alcoholism activated. Chugging a bottle of white wine on the kitchen floor at night. It was my mom's. And I went 0 to 100 when it comes with like the alcoholism that was activated. I was never somebody that was like, oh, I'm going to have like 1 or 2 drinks at this party, or like, I'm going to have a sip of, my dad's rum. It was never like that. I went fully drunk the first time I had it, and it was like that till I went to treatment the last time, and I remember sitting there on the floor of the kitchen at night because I have a long history in mental health, and there was a lot of things that were going on in 7th grade, and I was like, what do adults do when they're depressed? They drink, and I just chugged a bottle of my mom's white wine, and I felt the alcohol hit my system, and there was just this like warm blanket, this like warm hug. I was like, everything is good, I found my survival mechanism, and nothing could hurt me anymore. It was that switch, and I remember trying to get up and use the bathroom, and I just fell like face planted, and I started laughing, and I was like, this is the bee's knees, and just from there, that the alcoholism took off,
So a couple of things. One, that's got to be tough. I joked about the Miami thing, but that's the culture in Miami is, party.
Yeah, you don't get away from it.
24/7.
Yeah, you don't get away from it.
And I can only imagine where I grew up, it was you're outside, you're hunting, you're fishing, you're drinking beer. but there was never really I never, until I was 20, I don't know, 23, experienced any sort of drugs, nothing like that, outside of pot, but cocaine started coming. But all to say that, like, that wasn't, Miami is special in the sense of, like, it's a party scene, like Miami, I imagine LA, Chicago, these major cities, that's, what they do. And being just a young girl, oh my God, I'm like, as you were saying that, I'm thinking to myself, oh, I'm really close to Miami. I have 2 daughters. I'm going to fucking kill them if they ever try and go to Miami.
It's crazy because wherever you are, whether you're in the suburbs, you have access to drugs.
Yeah.
You have access really to that lifestyle, even at a younger age. And it's always that glamour. It's just represented. It's just represented in Miami. Yeah. And it's just it is very easy access. And then when you start younger, the drink isn't enough after a while, and then you start smoking weed, and then the weed isn't enough after a while. And since it is such easy access, you try something else. And especially in the scene, I mean, there's freaking cocaine everywhere.
Yeah.
I got put on Adderall in high school. Loved that shit. I'm a big uppers person, even though I do love, alcohol was my main drug of choice always. But I mean, I was a human trash can. So I was always doing something else to balance it out. But I mean, the Adderall, that was another thing that I didn't even realize I would love until I was on it, and it's very easy to abuse.
Adderall is something that we don't talk enough of.
It drives me crazy, dude. Adderall.
Yeah.
Where it's so easily justifiable for a drug addict to be like, we have a case here right now. Yeah. Literally now, they're like, I'm getting back on Adderall when I leave. Not even realizing that there's other alternatives, or not even having the open-mindedness to explore other alternatives if you truly have ADHD. And in my experience, 90% of the people that come in here with an ADHD diagnosis aren't really even ADHD. Like, once they sober up, you're like, dude, you are so not ADHD. Who the hell put you on this, like, to begin with? And it's one carbon molecule different than methamphetamine that comes across the border from Mexico. So it's like, you're literally putting kids on speed with an improper diagnosis.
Yeah. Vyvanse, Adderall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So easy to abuse. I mean, Vyvanse was one of the things that I came into detox for the last time. I mean, I was abusing alcohol, marijuana, Xanax, Vyvanse, cocaine, kratom. And the Vyvanse, I remember I would open up my little capsule. I would open up my capsules, I would pour them out, and I would, twist it up in a little tissue paper, and I would parachute it while I was snorting cocaine.
You know what?
Wait, hang on. What's that mean? Parachuting it, putting it in a
Never
little.
heard of parachuting?
No.
I would just dump the whole thing.
Oh,
I wouldn't waste my
time.
time.
Heard of?
What's the purpose in that? I guess why not just take the capsule?
More.
Oh, okay. All right, gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
it hits quicker.
You're like, I don't want this time release shit. I'm just gonna pour it into it and add a little on top.
I think it's just an addict thing. It's like kind of it was just kind of fun. You were like, I'm gonna do my drugs in a whole bunch of different ways,
Well, I don't know if I want to get graphic with the type of parachuting I know about. And I don't know if you're referring to the same thing.
Okay,
no,
well,
I don't know. Well, I think that's called something else.
It is called something else, but we're not
going to do that.
We're going to move on.
Yeah. That's why I went quiet for a second. I'm like, do I
and
say
the kratom
this?
is a whole other issue. I tried that initially because I was trying to stop drinking and using, and that, the kava and the kratom was advertised as a healthy alternative to stop using drugs and drinking.
This is a point I was going to bring up. I'm glad that you said that before I said what I was going to say right before that. You just said that kratom was like an alternative, dude, and you brought up Vyvanse right before that, and it hit me real quick. I'm like, when Vyvanse came out, they were advertising it as like the safer new version of Adderall. Like, oh, it doesn't really count as an amphetamine. Because I think, I could be wrong about this, but because it came out so long ago and I researched it, so to speak. But I'm pretty sure it has to pass through your liver and break down into the metabolite before it becomes effective, where Adderall is just instantly the metabolite you need, so to speak. Mm-hmm. But it has to go through that process, kind of like Vicodin. Like there's Oxycontin, you do oxys and you're good. Vicodin has to pass through your liver and then you're high. But the medical field tries to pass it off as this new safe alternative, and it's literally the same thing, dude. There ain't a difference between Vicodin and Oxycontin. Like,
no,
they both get you the same result. It's just the way that it breaks down in the body is different, but the end result is still the same. But they do it with kratom. And right now you're seeing all these safe alternatives on my Facebook. We've talked about social media, it pops up all the time, like microdosing ketamine, microdosing mushrooms. This is safe, and I'll just call it what it is. At the end of the year, 10 years down the road, they're like, oh, it wasn't really safe.
Yeah,
but we got everybody and we made our money while we could.
Yeah. So let's transition now to where you find yourself in treatment. Well, before we get there, you said that you're coming up on 9 years on something. You want to share on that real quick?
Oh, yeah, no, this year, October 5th, I made 9 years in recovery from my eating disorder.
Okay. Congratulations on that.
Yeah, that's huge.
The reason I wanted you to say that is, again, because it's something that we don't talk a lot about, because we're not really, what's the word I'm looking for?
It's not, we're primary substance abuse.
Well, and we don't know, we don't want to pretend to know a lot about eating disorder. So we don't talk a lot about it. But before we transition, tell us a little bit about that, like the eating disorder, how it played out in your life. You made that decision to go into treatment for the eating disorder. Were you utilizing your eating disorder in the same ways that you were using your drugs or your alcohol? Did they kind of coexist one with the other? Did your alcoholism amplify once you went into recovery for your eating disorder, stuff like that?
Yeah. So it's kind of like preface. I'm a firm believer that, I was born with this God-shaped hole, right? And I will utilize anything to fill it up, right? Until I have that vital spiritual experience that makes me whole again, right? Finding my higher power. Every negative coping skill that I tried to utilize was just a Band-Aid before then. So whether it was relationships, gambling, alcohol, drugs, sex, love, codependency, these were all just methods and survival mechanisms that we picked up along the way to, temporarily fill that God-shaped hole. And I developed my eating disorder at a very young age. And it was definitely something that was a method of control. It was one of the only things that I felt like I could control in my life.
How old were you when it started? Approximately?
I can remember being in elementary school and being unhappy with the way that I looked. And I think that goes with the alcoholic mind, always feeling like a fish out of water, always feeling like I wasn't good enough, always feeling like I didn't fit in. And I felt like I could blame it on, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not thin enough. And so I started taking it out on my weight. Middle school, I think, was when it really started taking off a little bit more. High school was really when it got severe. I was already experiencing, so like eating disorders, the way that I describe them, they're kind of like addiction, where it's, you don't just stay on, well, most of us don't really stay on just, one drug, or, just alcohol. It's like, we're going to experiment with a whole lot of shit, So I was already, dealing with emotional eating. So, binging, and then there was the restriction that occurred. And then, like I said, I was put on Adderall in high school. So that started to help me with the restriction even more. And I got a lot of positive feedback when I was losing the weight. And I was like, I love this, And then there was a girl that I knew who was purging. And I asked her to teach me how to purge. So I learned how to purge from her. And then it was, I'm restricting and I'm purging. So I would make myself throw up as well as not eating. And then you're completely starving, and it's very hard to live like that. So then you start binging too. And it was this terrible cycle of eating a lot of food, feeling like crap about it, making myself throw up everything, and then trying to restrict all day, or restrict for as many days as I could. And then even if it was eating the tiniest meal, I would immediately make myself throw up again. And that alcoholic pride that we have, and, I'm going to deal with everything on my own. I'm going to stuff it down. It's not that big of a deal. I'm going to handle everything myself. I never told anybody. And I tried to recover by myself. I tried to fix it by myself. And I always ended up relapsing on my eating disorder. And there was a time where it was so bad that my stomach actually stopped digesting food. And I had to go to urgent care. And they did a scan of my stomach, and there was so much undigested food impacted in my stomach that they had to flush it out, to put it lightly. And they were asking me all these questions, and I was like, I don't know why it's going on, doctor. I didn't want to tell anybody that I had an eating disorder. Because that was my survival mechanism. And there was fear. It's like going to detox, or hiding your addiction from somebody. There's so much fear. I don't want you to take away my coping mechanism. So I hid that from the world. And I remember going off to college, and, it got worse. And I picked up exercising in the gym. So I would be starving myself, and purging after I would eat a meal. And then I would go to the gym and work out for maybe like 4 hours straight. Oh my God. On an empty stomach. And I remember like calling my mom or somebody else on the phone while I was walking home from the gym, just in case I passed out, so somebody would know where I was. And I finally picked up the phone one day, and I called my mom and I said, I have an eating disorder. It's killing me. I need to come home. And we tried just doing therapy because we really didn't have like the knowledge of what treatment was. Not a lot of people in Miami back then, or, you know, in our friend group, or, you know, who we knew about treatment or what it was. And then my therapist, you know, after about like a year and a half, finally said, you know, she needs inpatient treatment. And so I went to eating disorder treatment, and you know, thank God. And I was pretty honest, but that was the first place somebody ever told me that I had a substance abuse issue.
Was that the eating disorder place?
Mm-hmm.
There is a lot there to unpack. I Googled something real quick. I didn't want to be wrong about it, but a lot of people are like, how can you compare eating disorder to substance abuse? And what a lot of people don't realize is that, and especially with bulimia and purging, there is an alteration in the neurotransmitters. And I wanted to be sure I knew which neurotransmitters. I was double checking myself. I'm glad I did, because I was right about one. I was wrong about the other. But there's actually an alteration in serotonin and norepinephrine. Like, just to be straight up, I know when I gag on my toothbrush in the morning when I'm brushing my teeth, because I don't know, I brush my teeth like a madman. Like, I look up, my eyes are watering, and I'm like, it's like a high. It's like this,
Yes.
the serotonin. Like, and the same thing, like, if you relate it back to ecstasy, one of the things that would happen, you would eat it, you would get nauseous for like real quick, you would throw up. As soon as you looked up, you're just like blowing up. The ecstasy would like kick in instantly. And I believe the two are related, but like when you vomit, there is a boost in serotonin for sure. And like that's a little bit that I know about eating disorders, basically.
I wonder if this is why, and this isn't drug related or eating disorder related, but like whenever I'm sick and I like have the flu, I wonder if that's why, like, after you throw up, you feel better for like a short period of time.
It's a flood of the chemicals in your brain. And bulimia, if I'm understanding correctly, like, it seems more intense to them, and there is a sense of euphoria after you do it, correct?
Yeah. So, and we were educated on that in eating disorder treatment, and the way that, you know, it was explained to me, if I remember correctly, was, you know, we're not supposed to vomit. You know, it's a survival mechanism. And so, you know, when we throw up, our body does release these chemicals, right? Because our body literally thinks that it's being poisoned or that we're dying. So it's releasing these chemicals to, I guess, in a sense, like protect us.
Yeah.
In a way. So we are literally feeling those chemicals that you described, and we get that high. We get that, you know, those happy chemicals, and that does become addictive as well.
I do know that it strains your heart a lot.
Esophagus, heart. I mean, to this day, I still deal.
Do you really?
With, oh yeah. I mean,
like burn, because that's essentially, it's like acid, you know. People that have acid reflux, a lot of times they'll get esophageal meningitis and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of consequences that come as a result of bulimia, for sure.
When I worked at Palm Beach Institute, they opened up an eating disorder track for 5 minutes. And I say 5 minutes, but it was probably a month. And I had maybe, I don't know, 14 months sober. They decided that I was going to be in charge of monitoring the eating disorder people. And I'm like, okay, I have no idea what to look for. And they're just like, you know, it was like a buddy system, right? I had to follow, and I got assigned to this one. He was a kid, pretty much, young boy, 18, 19 years old. And he always wore a hoodie. And one day I'm sitting in the lunchroom with him, and I noticed he's eating, right? But then he would put his hand up over his face and go like this. And you'd have to watch on YouTube to see this. And he would literally throw up in his sleeve. as he's eating
in front of you,
in front of
and
me.
you're supposed to be watching him.
And yes, I was. I mean, I found out. I'm like, you're throwing up in your sleeve. And so I went and told the higher ups and they did whatever they did. But I'm like, oh my God. Like, that was crazy. And then it was like you would find it in their closet and stuff. And I'm like, I can't wrap my head around it. I just can't. But, it's just the same as a normal person can't wrap their head around
addiction.
Me sitting at the bar for 12 hours.
It's really no different when you break it down to any other addiction. And like one that didn't get touched on, but like people use laxatives. There was a girl on my cross country team in high school, and laxatives was her thing. Down in boxes of them things. I'm like, how do you even make it through the day without, I'm like,
I experimented with those too.
Yeah.
Let me touch on this too real quick, because I think it'd be good for insight. One of the things, because you mentioned how the Adderall helped with that too.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, Adderall, meth, coke, all the uppers, definitely. But really any drug, because we see this a lot when people get sober. Like you go into detox, dude, I gained 30 pounds in 30 days.
Yeah.
And you see this very often. I actually had one of our current clients that he's definitely not got any kind of eating disorder. But he's like, dude, he sent me a picture of him in the gym downstairs with like his shirt up and he his belly hanging out. He's like, look at all this weight I put on a detox, dude. But like, it is something you have to pay attention to, and we do as a treatment center, because when you're drinking and drugging, you're not eating as you should be. Just call it what it is. And you're probably underweight. You get sober, all of a sudden you're eating, and most detoxes are like, got the ice cream machine. You just go all day long. All you want to eat, all you can eat ice cream. Like, people start putting on weight, and then real quick, like, I've seen here women with I shouldn't say women, men and women because men do the same thing. I misspoke there, but they come in. What?
Nothing.
I had to correct myself.
We were totally fine. I mean,
Okay.
it's the majority of it affects women, but men too.
Mm-hmm.
So, but they come in and all of a sudden develop eating disorder behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
It's, and I would say like the men do it too more by like going to the gym and lifting nonstop, doing steroids, like stuff like that. Like the women, we tend to catch them. How oftentimes have we seen in the shift report, so-and-so is purging, and we're like, they have no eating disorder history. Then you talk to them and they're like, I gained 40 pounds in the last 2 months. And then they start. Like, so it's something when somebody's getting sober, you also have to keep an eye on, because body image, self-image, man, it's important.
Well, that's a good transition, because that's where I wanted to kind of go next. These things, like, and I like what you said in the very beginning, a God-shaped hole, right? That hole's there. And it's going to be there until we are able to fill it with something appropriate. And that's what we see in treatment a lot of times. You come in for a drug addiction and you could develop a shopping addiction, a pornography addiction. I think pornography is one of the most least talked about things, sex addiction, and for guys, there's a slip under every skirt, and stuff like that, because we're looking for something to get that release, that feel-good feeling, And so, but where I wanted to transition with you, Ramsey, is, okay, so you find yourself here in treatment, like the eating disorders at bay, you're in recovery from that. The drug addiction, the alcoholism obviously rears its ugly head. Let's get now into the recovery portion of it. Like, when did things really start for you kind of firing on all cylinders and like, okay, I'm like gaining traction here?
So mine was of the slow educational sorts, as they talk about.
You had to do more research?
Well,
I think there's a good story that we could tie into this. We were talking about it on the phone when we talked.
Yeah, it was, I hate it sometimes, because a lot of us have to learn through our own experience instead of other people's stories. But kind of like I was talking about earlier, here was really when I learned the foundation that, there was a solution for me to get sober, stay sober, and have a life, a functional sobriety, because that was never a concept before. Really everything that I was ever surrounded by had to do with at least alcohol. It's ingrained in everything in society. You get married, you drink, you graduate, you drink, you got a kid that's born, you drink, someone dies, you drink. Every experience that I ever did was intoxicated. And I come here, and there's this, big book that was, shown to me before, but I was not receptive, because I wasn't ready to get sober. But I was definitely emotionally and mentally beaten into a place of submission where I was absolutely willing to do anything. So I started listening in groups, and I listened to the concept of the steps and the literature. And I was able to form what we call these genuine relationships for the first time. One of the most important relationships that I had was Millie. She was the first person that I met. She was my roommate,
Camille.
Oh, okay.
And, that was something that was very meaningful to me. And the fact that for the first time I was asking somebody, where are you from? Do you have any siblings? What music do you like? I had never asked somebody those questions before. And being able to laugh hysterically here. I'd never had a real genuine laugh like that before. And that was insane. To feel that I could experience joy like that for the first time in my life, that really gave me a lot of hope. Adventure groups, right? When you guys would, take us out, being able to have these experiences of going to the beach for the first time without being intoxicated, crossing that off the list, and having fun doing it, knowing that I could go out and experience life sober, and enjoy it. That's really when the wheels first started turning for me, that, this is a life that I could do. And that's really when I feel that I was like, I'm gonna stick around. And there were a lot of great, concepts that you taught me. And, some on trauma that you were open with. Mental health was a big one. Couldn't begin to address my mental health seriously until I was sober. Being medicated properly. I was taking medications while I was using for years. How did we know that they were even effective? Right? Doing therapy once I was sober for a while. That's actually effective. I can be receptive once I have a clear head. I did, mess up after I left rock. I was 8 months sober. And I relapsed because I was prioritizing the wrong things. And I had the foundation, I had the tools that I was taught here, but I didn't use them.
There was something that we were talking about prior to hitting record that I think you spoke very eloquently about. Would you mind touching on the fact, because we always talk about, right now, what I'm hearing is you were here, you learned all the tools and stuff, then you slipped up, But I want to assure loved ones, parents, anybody in active addiction, maybe somebody that's tried and relapsed, like those seeds and tools are being planted. They're still there. You don't lose it, so to speak.
No,
You just get to apply it later. But you were, and I think this ties into the fact that Eric and Tom are doing the Big Book study on Monday night.
Yeah.
You said something about the Big Book earlier. You know what I'm referring to? Would you elaborate on that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So, what I was talking about earlier was this was the first time that, I was, read the Big Book realistically. And I paid attention to it. But there's, one of my favorite stories to this day is the one about Jim and the milk and whiskey. And I would read the paragraph and I was like, all right, this is just about a guy who, poured a shot of whiskey into his milk and he drank it. And, it didn't really mean much to me. And then Ben would read it again with us. And it was like being read a completely different piece of literature, because he would describe how the mental relapse precedes the physical relapse. And he would point out how the ego was present, how the resentment was present, how this guy knew exactly what he was doing because he was driving out to a bar that he had been to before and that he had drank before. And how, it's really beautiful being able to be taken through the book by somebody that has the knowledge and the experience, and how to this day I will take my sponsees through the book the exact same way that Ben taught me when I was here, like almost 4 years ago. And how to this day, Ben taught us that the squiggly letters, or how he says the spaghetti letters in the book, the italics, are the most important things in the book because it cost more money to print them back then. So there are things that were mentioned in group that are literally ingrained in my brain to this day.
Hang on a second.
I'm serious.
No, I believe you. What's the squiggly letter thing?
The italics.
I know, but why are those the most important words?
It costs more to print them back then.
Yeah.
So it's very serious. Those are serious paragraphs.
So back then when they had printing presses,
it's so serious, Tom.
with the printing presses, they had to literally pull the letters out and put in the italices ones, like on the machine, and then press it. So you literally had to mess with the calibration of the machine to be able to put italices in. So you paid per letter or per word. And it was extra work for the printing press to be able to do that. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You didn't just hit the italices F5 button or whatever it is on your Apple computer and it did it,
Okay.
So when you see that in the book, you know that is incredibly important.
Mind's blown right
And you're
now.
welcome.
I'm going to look for an italicized word, Ben, while you... And
I was just going through there.
We got about 10 minutes left.
So pop into there as a solution. There's some italicized paragraphs in there.
Yeah, Jim's story, actually, chapter 3.
That's such a good one.
It says, it's the one she was talking about, milk and whiskey. It says suddenly at the bottom of the page when it wasn't really suddenly.
It was not suddenly.
Oh, here we go.
In fact, it was not suddenly.
Yeah. But the ex-problem drinker who has found this solution, who is properly armed with facts about himself, can generally win the entire confidence of another alcoholic in a few hours. Until such an understanding is reached, little or nothing can be accomplished. That whole paragraph is italicized. That's like a $10,000 paragraph right there.
Well, that's essentially the perfect representation of a sponsor.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
You speak alcoholic to an alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
So
Depth
freeze
and
that
weight,
language.
baby.
Let's read that one more time. But the ex-problem drinker who has found this solution, Ramsey, who is properly armed with facts about himself or herself, can generally win the entire confidence of another alcoholic in a few hours. Until such an understanding is reached, little or nothing can be accomplished. That's good. That's a good freaking paragraph.
So you know what that means. Properly armed with the facts about themselves. The definition of insanity is can't tell the truth from the false and appalling lack of perspective. If you know the facts about yourself, it's because you've gone through those 12 steps. You've done the fourth and fifth step, so to speak. You went from being insane. If you know the facts, you're now sane. So you went from alcoholic insanity to now you're sane. Now you're able to tell that guy how you went from insane to sane.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's
What?
got it.
Listen.
There was two other things I want to touch on. You said we only had 10 minutes before, as you always say, we have to land the plane.
Yeah, we're going to start landing. I was going to do an airplane pilot.
Do it. We'll take time for that out of the 10 minutes.
No, just go. Come on.
Is that good? I think it's worth bringing up. I don't know why I'm thinking to bring it up, but I don't know. You probably have something to say about it.
Huh.
You mentioned Camille.
Yeah.
And how that was such a vital relationship to you. We won't use last names and stuff, but Camille had how many years sober? 2? I think 2 years sober, and ended up passing from this disease.
Yeah.
And and that's tough, man, where like someone that had such an impact on your recovery and was right there with you, walking the same path, and you essentially did the work, did the right things, so to speak. Not that she did the wrong things. In the same exact place at the same time, here you are, and she didn't make it. Sweetest girl on the face of the planet. That was a hard one to lose. A really hard one to lose. That was a big one for a lot of people. You know, we hear stories. I'll just be very, I don't know, straightforward about this. Some clients pass away, like they'll go home, we hear about it. She was one that stuck around in the area, made a very positive impact on a lot of people over the time she was sober, and then next thing you knew, she was gone.
She went home, didn't she?
She did.
Yeah. She had a little boy.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Well, you just don't know. I mean, that's the thing with this. And I've said this before, like, you know, we're all afflicted with this disease in some capacity. And if any one of us went out and used tomorrow, it would suck. It would be terrible. It would be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened. But would I be, whatever word you can use that's not surprised, because I don't feel like that's the right word. And expected isn't the right word. It just, it wouldn't be surprising, I guess. That's the only word I can come up with, because that's who we are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's now we're both coming up on 15 years. Ben, if you went out tonight and even smoked dope, I'd be like, you freaking idiot. You know, like, what are you doing? Dumbass.
Yeah. Dumbass.
You know? But if we really boil it down, and that would be that. And then the next conversation would be like, okay, now what? Where do we go from here? You know, where did you screw up? Let's analyze this. You know, what's been going on in your life? Yada, yada, yada.
Milk and whiskey.
Right. And the thing that I tell my sponsees is it doesn't matter whether you have 30 years, 30 days, we're just as likely to go out.
Correct.
The thing is, you can't stop doing what you did in the beginning to get sober. That's where people go wrong. That's why they go out.
It is scary, because I ain't going to lie, and I'm wondering if you'll agree with me on this. Having 14 years of sobriety, there is this part of me now that's like, wow, that could never be me. Yeah. I'm not lying. I'm smart enough to know that's not the truth, but I'd be lying to say that there wasn't a part of me that's like, I'm cured. But you're right. That's the thing is
Yeah.
we don't stop. I don't stop doing the work, and I'm not going to take the risk of stopping to do the work.
Well, I've talked about this a lot. I didn't grow up here. And we like to, go up to Melbourne or wherever. And I've never been drunk in Florida. Never drank on the beach. Never, so when I could be somewhere, with my wife and my kids having a good time, and I'll catch myself, we're at maybe a beach restaurant or something down the Keys. And I'm looking at, some leather-faced, Florida boy that's been drinking, probably all day. And I'm like, man, that looks good. But then I'm like, but that's the thing. Like, I'm smart enough to know where that would take.
You just brought up something funny that happened to me yesterday morning. I was getting gas, and I was looking at the 7-Eleven window, and I caught myself. There's this sign, and they had like deals on single cans of beer, like 3 for whatever, and it would be like 3 kinds, and then you would level down, and it would be like $1 cheaper, and then level down for $1 cheaper. And I'm like sitting there like, I went into deep thought, dude. I'm like staring at this sign. I'm like, I'd probably start at the top, and like a couple months later, be drinking the ones on the bottom, the natty ice.
You're like, that's not
and
a
then
bad deal.
I'm like, I'm like sitting there thinking, I'm like, what the hell have I been doing? Staring at this sign because I needed a full tank of gas. So I was literally like, for an entire tank of gas, staring at this sign, like a deep thought. That's my alcoholic mind, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
I was like,
Absolutely.
whoa. One other thing I wanted to bring up. I think it's funny. We were texting about it when I wanted you to come on the podcast. And this is to show, too, we do make progress, and there are wins, even if we don't end up staying sober in treatment the first time. You ended up turning something over to me at one point in treatment. You remember what it was?
Wait,
It's like out of.
I think I know what this is, and I think you still have it.
You weren't supposed to tell. Yes,
Do you really?
I might.
I know you do because I saw it.
We have this cigar box downstairs where we just throw random stuff in there. And
It's like our lost and found box from clients.
It is.
We have a watch in there from like 7 years ago. I don't even...
There's like probably an 8-year-old cigar in there too. There's
Anyways, go ahead.
mini book of the Constitution.
I'd kind of be interested to see it.
Yeah, it's downstairs.
Could you see it and then
Oh,
still throw it
absolutely.
away? Okay.
Absolutely.
We'll take a look and see if it's in there. I don't
Are
know
you
what
going to
else.
tell her what it is?
She knows.
I know what it
The
is.
listeners don't know.
Oh, gotcha.
I gave Ben my my medical marijuana card. Oh yeah.
Look at that.
I was super surprised too because that day, like I remember that very clearly. You walked up to me and you're like, I feel like I should give this to you. And I was like, wow, we had no idea you had it. And if I recall, you had told me that you had every intention of using it when you left. But for some reason that day, maybe it was only in the moment for 30 seconds. You're like, let me hand this over. And you probably regretted it 3 minutes later, like I would have. Right?
Sometimes you just have those impulsive, like, I got to do this before, my mind thinks more about it, or at least, the sick part of my mind thinks more about it. Because that healthy voice, I feel like that healthy voice has always been there, presently, even when we were out there, like, oh, this is a bad idea, but, fuck it. But like when you stay longer, that healthy voice gets louder.
Yeah.
I was like, I got to do this.
Love the way you just explained that. It's like the healthy voice had a win.
Yeah.
Like it was quieted for so long.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, like for that one moment, the healthy voice came out.
Yeah.
That's cool. And then that healthy voice gets louder and more consistent over the course of time.
Yeah.
We're genuinely all good people and want, you know what I mean? Like we're good people at the core of ourselves. And I was talking to somebody, it was it was the mom. It was a mom. And she was just like kind of word vomiting about her son. And I don't believe anything that he says. I can't trust him. Tom, I think he's just telling us what we want to hear, blah, 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 blah. And I said, look, he's a good person. I don't know if this, because he's coming back to treatment here. And I said, I don't know if this is going to work. I really don't. I don't have a crystal ball, but I do know that I have seen him sober. I know how he is when he's sober. He's a good person. He means well. This is his alcoholism.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, the way that I've thought about it is like I truly believe that we are born, these beautiful, incredible, capable,
True.
bless you, honest, just incredible creatures, right? And our alcoholism, our addiction, our sickness just like muddles it up, just like covers up our light, right? And so then we work through the 12 steps, and it's kind of like, cleaning it up again, right? And we're able to bring our light back up to the surface, bring our authentic selves back up to the surface, and our light can really shine again, right? We've always been these great, amazing, beautiful creatures. It's just about cleaning off that sickness, that dirt,
Yeah.
and being able to shine again.
Yeah. You're right. You're right there for sure. Well, that was fun, Ramsey. Thank you for coming on. You always do this. Now what do you want to say?
Well, you always ask me, do you have anything else? So I'm going to use this opportunity.
All right, let me do that. Ben, any final thoughts?
Yes. You now work in the field.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, we should have covered that.
Yeah. You're welcome, Tom.
Come on.
I do.
What do you do in the field real quick, and for who and all that stuff?
So I'm an admissions coordinator for Agape Treatment Centers, and it's the best.
You didn't even mention how long you've been sober now, have you?
Yeah, I'm going on 3 years.
Yeah.
March.
3 years in March.
Oh, you did say that.
March
Yeah,
15th.
Right, the March 25th thing.
Or
It's
March
close to Ty's
25th.
birthday. Sorry, I just wanted to be sure.
No, it's
My
okay.
bad.
But it's a great job. It gives me purpose, which I think is super necessary for alcoholics, addicts. We need something that gives us purpose.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful job.
And that's why I mentioned earlier, like when we went to Miami, we went with Gio. Gio works for Agape as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but yeah, that's super cool. And you like it?
I love it. It's
What's your hours?
So I work 1 to 10 Mondays, Thursdays, Fridays, and 9 to 5 Saturdays and Sundays.
So you're off Tuesdays and Wednesdays?
Yes.
Cool. That's why you're here today.
Yeah.
Nice.
Her day off, and she's still doing recovery stuff, Tom.
That's right. Oh, yeah. And you have sponsees. You have how
Yes,
many
I do.
sponsees do you have?
I have 3 beautiful, amazing sponsees, and that's probably one of my favorite parts about this program is working with other women. I mean, I learn something about myself and the program every single time I take another woman through the book, and spoiler alert, y'all are helping me more than I'm helping you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We just told the guy in detox that this morning. We visited a guy in detox, and he told us how he did 12 steps. And like it occurred to me, the light bulb, I'm like, how many people did you sponsor? None. I'm like, oh, so you never actually did the 12 steps. I wasn't trying to be a jerk, but wanted to point out to him, dude,
Yeah.
you missed, like, in my opinion, the most vital one. I mean, I'm with you on do the step 1 thing. You're not wrong, because I was thinking that in my head too. But like, they say that's the only one you got to do perfect. But step 12 is the one that keeps me in the game, dude, like big time.
Yeah.
Step 12, for those that don't know, is helping another alcoholic. I don't know. Don't ask me to say it. Hang on a second. It's as a result of these steps, we carry this message to other alcoholics.
That's good.
Having had
a spiritual awakening
As a result
of these steps, we carry this message to other alcoholics, on which this stands one nation under all.
Now you screwed me up. I'm like saying in my head, oh, dude.
Nah, that was it.
Was that it? Did it end at alcoholics? Does it
No,
end?
with liberty and justice for all. Nah.
Oh, Tom.
See, this goes back to those genuine laughs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You would think that we were ripping on a big doobie right now. But
Tom,
we're
I
not.
hope you keep showing up to the big book study we do.
Yeah. No, you say it then.
Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics who still suffer.
Yeah. Amen.
It is hard when you get put on the spot.
It is.
I can recite anything, but you put me on the spot and I'm like,
I remember I was at a meeting one time and they were like, okay, Tom, will you take us out? And I'm like, oh shit. What do I say? And then and that even happens on the podcast sometimes when I'm like doing it didn't happen here, but I'm like doing the intro and everything. And then it comes time to introduce whoever it is that is here to do the interview. Yeah. And I'm like, and we have Benjamin B. And we also have, and then at one time it didn't come to me and I had to pretend like something was screwed up on here.
Oh.
And I grabbed my phone. Who was that?
I didn't even know you did that, dude.
No,
do you want to say who it was?
That wasn't honest. You were close to relapse that day.
That wasn't. I was just protecting their
I remembered that day.
So, Ramsey, thanks again. Open invite anytime you want to come on.
Thank you.
We love to see the growth that you're having and just it's remarkable. And
Thank
helping
you.
other women and yeah. So, all right. Is that it? We good?
Mm-hmm.
All right. That is it for this episode of Real Recovery Talk. Thank you for tuning in. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you could always reach us, info@realrecoverytalk.com. Again, that's info@realrecoverytalk.com. And ultimately, we want to help you turn your mess into your message. That is it. We will see y'all later.